Most people cannot describe themselves without mentioning what they do for a living. Try it right now. Think about how you would answer the question, "Tell me about yourself," at a dinner party. Within 2 sentences, probably 1, your job title appears. Not your values, not your relationships, not what you actually care about. Your title. That is not an accident. That is decades of conditioning quietly telling you that your worth is your output. And the day that output disappears, through redundancy, burnout, retirement, or choice, most people discover they have no idea who they actually are underneath it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how that happens, why it costs you more than you realize, and the specific moves that help you build an identity that nobody can take from you. Chapter 1. The Fused Identity. When your job title becomes your identity, you stop making decisions from possibility and start making them from fear. We stay in toxic environments because leaving feels like losing a part of ourselves. We hesitate to explore new paths because that's not who I am. Think about the last time you seriously considered leaving a job, a role, a career path. The resistance you felt probably had a specific texture to it. Not just, "This will be risky," but something closer to, "I don't know who I am if I'm not this." That feeling is not caution, it is identity fusion, and it is one of the most quietly destructive forces in most people's working lives. Previously, we mentioned Ryan Holiday, who built an entire book around the idea that ego, the attachment to a fixed self-image, is what prevents most people from growing. When your title is your identity, any threat to that title becomes a threat to you. You cannot take feedback about your work without it feeling like an attack on your character. You cannot change direction without it feeling like an admission of failure. The ego dressed up as a job title is still ego. The most dangerous cage is the one you decorated yourself. Here's where most people get this completely wrong. They think the solution is to find a better job title, a more impressive one that finally feels like enough. But that's just trading one cage for a shinier one. The job title was never the answer, because it was always the wrong question. Chapter 2. Start with why. Simon Sinek's TED Talk has been watched over 60 million times. The reason is not because it's complicated, it's because it names something that most people felt, but never articulated. The Golden Circle was the idea that successful people and organizations start with why they do what they do, rather than what they do, or how they do it. Most people have this completely reversed. They build their identity from the outside in. What they do, how they do it, and never reach the center, the why, the part that is actually theirs. Your job title is a what. It describes a function. It says nothing about who you are, what you value, what you are here to do, or what kind of person you are committed to being. 2 people can hold the exact same title and be completely different human beings. The title contains none of the information that actually matters. The practical move is to write down your why before you write down your what. Not your job description, your purpose, not your role, your values. The 3 things you would still stand for, if every credential, every title, every achievement disappeared tomorrow. That list is your actual identity. The title is just the current vehicle for it. Chapter 3. Act your way into a new identity. Everything about how we think about reinvention is wrong. We are told to look inward first, do the self-assessment to figure out who you are before you act, to know before you move. And that advice sounds wise. It is also almost completely useless. Ibra argues that you cannot discover yourself by introspection alone. Start by changing what you do. Try different paths. Take action and then use the feedback from your actions to figure out what you think, feel, and want. Don't try to analyze or plan your way into a new identity. This is the single most liberating idea in everything I've read on this topic. You do not need to know who you are before you start. You find out who you are by starting. Identity is no destination you arrive at after thinking enough. It is something you construct through action, experiment, and feedback. Career transition is not a straight path towards some predetermined identity, but a crooked journey along which we try on a host of possible selves we might become. The people who successfully reinvent themselves do not wait until they feel ready or certain. They experiment. They try things that feel slightly wrong and learn from that. They try things that feel surprisingly right and lean into that. Their identity emerges from the doing, not the planning. The practical move is to pick one thing this week that exists outside your current title. One conversation with somebody in a completely different field. 1 hour spent on something you've always been curious about but never had a professional reason to pursue. One small experiment that has nothing to do with your job description. Not to find yourself, to start building yourself. The difference matters. Chapter 4. You are always more than this. Olivia Berkman spent years researching human beings' relationships with time and productivity, and arrived at one conclusion that cuts through everything else. The casual catastrophe, treating every moment of your life as a means to some future end, is dangerous and possibly tragic. When your identity is your job title, your entire life becomes a means to an end. You are not living, you are performing a role in service of a future moment that never quite arrives. Viktor Frankl survived the worst circumstances imaginable and came out with the truth that applies here directly. Meaning cannot be borrowed from an external role. It must be constructed from within. A job title is borrowed meaning. The moment it is taken away, through redundancy, retirement, or simply the passage of time, you're left with nothing if that was all you had. The people who navigate career transitions, redundancies, and reinventions best are not the ones with the most impressive CV. They are the ones who had already built an identity that existed independently of what they were paid to do. They had values they had named, relationships they had invested in, curiosity that had followed, skills they had built for their own sake. Your true identity has been with you all along, waiting for you to pay attention. The title was always just a vehicle. The question is whether you know what destination actually is. Before I close this out, I want to leave you with one exercise from everything we've covered today. Your job title is a what. It has never been a who. The fused identity, the one that always makes you stay too long, shrink too much, and fear change more than stagnation, was always built on borrowed ground. We started with the idea that most people cannot describe themselves without mentioning what they do for a living. Here's what I want you to try before you go to sleep tonight. Write down 3 things you would still be, still stand for, still value, and still pursue if your job title disappeared tomorrow. Not what you would do next, who you would still be. That list is the beginning of an identity that nobody can take from you. One small experiment this week. 1 hour outside your title. One conversation with someone whose work looks nothing like yours. Not to find yourself, to start building yourself. If this resonated, subscribe. I put out a new video every week, and drop a comment with 3 words you would use to describe yourself if your job title didn't exist.